In today's show, a bonus episode, talking the first game of the Tiago Splitter era, a full-on walloping of the Golden State Warriors. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming out each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. Today's episode, a bonus one, coming at you Friday evening from the Moda Center after the Blazers win their first game of the Tiago Splitter era. 139-119. This was a game that I'm anticipating to be awkward and strange and sort of one of the most bizarre Blazer games I've covered during my decade and some change around the league. It felt, for the most part, relatively normal. We'll talk the game. We'll do fastest recap in the West in a little bit, but I want to talk about sort of the players and the Tiago era and the post-Chauncey Billups era is maybe the more accurate way to describe this. Billups, of course, not in the arena. He was arrested, went to court, released on his own account, can't travel, but he's on indefinite and perhaps likely forever leave. So the Blazers are playing a new era without their coach. They woke up in the morning just like we all did on Thursday to discover the news, to hear, the players tell it. They learned the way you did on social media. That's what Tiago Splitter said too. He sees the posts and says, "Oh, no one saw this coming." And to be clear, no one saw this coming. So then they get to the practice facility. Okay, everybody come in. We're going to have a meeting. We're going to talk a little bit about this, and then you're going to go about your day. Matisse Thybulle described that afternoon, that morning, because guys sleep in after NBA games. They're all wired to stay up until play at their absolute physical peak at 9:30 p.m., stay up till 1-2 in the morning, and then sleep in a little bit. So Matisse said, guys wake up 9-10 o'clock. The news is happening. The group chat is, everybody's sharing whatever in the team group chat, the news, and they get to the practice facility to kind of have their meeting and talk about what's next. And he said that scene, that the sort of moment there is just so tense and awkward, and because it is so uncertain, because the Blazers are learning this stuff at the same time we are, there isn't they're not privy to anything except for the decisions they're going to make, Tiago being the head coach and et cetera, but they're not privy to any more news than we are, just following along as we do from the reporting that's happening, and folks reading, the indictment becoming public and us learning sort of in real time what's exactly happening. That's Thursday. Friday morning, they have a little shoot-around meeting. Everybody goes to the practice facility in the morning, eat a little breakfast, chat, go over some brief sets, go over some, very light walkthrough stuff, maybe get some shots up if you're into it, get some lunch, go home. Tiago Splitter said he addressed it, sort of the situation. Hey, Chauncey's not here. We don't know if or when he'll ever come back. This is our group. We move forward, and then they shifted to basketball. It's kind of what you'd expect, right? Is the shift to basketball, is the shift to doing the job of basketball player. But I also think there is something to it. To me, my perception is that this has been an unfortunate burden placed on the Trailblazers players, right? Is that they are now the ones sort of saddled with navigating the Chauncey Billups drama that they didn't even have any inkling of or know about in any way, and now they have to answer for the decisions or alleged actions of their coach. And Matisse Thybulle kind of dismissed that afterwards, saying that it is maybe the perception that is perhaps a burden from media types. I asked the question, he kind of pointed at me, but from the media, that they are indeed saddled with this burden of answering for what Chauncey has done and the alleged actions that Billups has done. But Matisse actually sees it differently. He sees it as kind of like just the story of the NBA, is that what players get to do is have this short-term memory and have this, as cliched as it is, next man up mentality. So when anything goes awry, the job that you do in the NBA is go play. And so that's what they did. They went and played. We'll talk about the game in a moment because they walloped the freaking Warriors. They beat the snot out of them. Heck of a basketball game. Before the game, the first person that addressed the media of the Trailblazers was Tiago Splitter, the interim head coach, coaching his first NBA game under very bizarre, unexpected circumstances. All things considered, I thought Tiago did a good job in that role. I thought he did a good job just saying, like, hey, I didn't expect this. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. The thing I want to do is get us to play basketball, and once we start playing basketball, it'll be easier, and that's got to be the focus, and that's what I'm going to tell my guys. It needs to be the focus. He was asked a big picture question by a reporter about kind of like the nature of the relationship between gambling and professional sports, even outside of the NBA, but across sports, and he said, you're putting me in an awkward situation. I would decline to comment. I don't really blame Tiago for that, quite frankly. I do think that's why you have a PR staff, so you can be prepared to answer very obvious questions. But that ain't on Tiago. He's trying to coach a basketball game. That's on the folks that work at the PR staff for not having him be ready to do that. I'll also say this, and I think it matters, but it's not that big of a deal, but I do think it matters. Where the hell was Joe Cronin? Where was Joe Cronin? Ostensibly the lead decision maker for the organization, ostensibly the person who chose, after he got his contract, chose to bring back Chauncey Billups on a 3-year deal. It chose to extend him. So it kind of like, this is the man who chose to have Billups run the team. I spoke in yesterday's program about how sort of like generally speaking, the Blazers' like level of due diligence should come into question. But more acutely speaking here, even if it's not about due diligence, this is about leadership. You don't have to answer for the decision to hire Billups, but in my mind, not speaking to the public, not making a public address. And from what I understand from some friends I asked who watched the game, I was in the arena, so I didn't see the broadcast, that there was early mention of it in the broadcast, and then they kind of just moved on. That's what you would expect, but there wasn't like Cronin made an appearance there. So as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. I find the decision not to speak to the media somewhat, I just think it's a bad choice. But I want to clarify what I mean by bad choice. I don't expect Joe Cronin to say anything. In fact, I reached out to someone I know who's worked in sports PR for a long time, 10 years or so. And I said, what would you have done? What would you have done in this case? Like, how would you have handled this exact thing? Because I told this person, like, Joe Cronin didn't speak. I find it odd, but I can be a little bit of a little prickly on this type of thing. Am I off base? What would you have done? And their advice was, and I think this is the correct PR move, and it is nothing, and I would still probably whine about it, to be totally honest. But their advice was that Cronin come up there, and he read a statement and say, reiterate the statement that the Blazers released yesterday. It was a bit of a nothing burger, but that's kind of what you're going to get in these situations. You don't want to step too far into unknown water, so you're going to actively say nothing as best you can. I think Cronin would have been best suited to get up there, make a statement, sit next to Tiago Splitter, say nothing else, say I can't comment any further and I don't want to. The statement is going to be as far as I'm willing and able to go at this point, and then sit back down. Instead, he said nothing, and the first person that spoke to the media was Tiago Splitter, and his job was to deflect, and he did a fine job at deflection, but boy, that puts him in a weird spot. I don't think that, like in the grand scheme of this, and by the time we get to the end of the line here, we probably won't remember this exact decision. I will, because I'm that type of person, but I'll just say this. In times of crisis, no matter what the job is, you want leadership to step forward and take a leadership role, even if that leadership role is doing something mundane, something that seems relatively useless, something that doesn't seem to serve a direct purpose. Leadership steps in and does the mundane and does something useless. The lack of any address, the lack of any public-facing lack of any public-facing presence strikes. It looks to me more like hiding than it does like leadership. And I think, I don't know if that's like a, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I will say that is my immediate perception of how the Blazers handled this. Then the game happened. Tiago Splitter talks. I will say this. I should give him credit for this. Pre-game, the locker room is open for 30 minutes. Players are, in theory, available to speak to the media for a 30-minute stretch prior to when the game starts. That's just how the NBA media works. Nobody was in there. Drew Holiday declined to comment. He doesn't like to talk pre-game, but he's also a veteran. He knows that there's no value in it. The only Blazers player that spoke pre-game was Denny Avdia. That's what leadership looks like. It is. It's answering hard questions. It's standing in front. I mentioned last year that the Blazers kind of missed that sort of like institutional knowledge, that kind of like the sort of soft magic of leadership, someone willing to do the hard things. And Denny stood up and did the hard things. He deserves a great deal of credit for being in there in the locker room and answering questions, being the only Blazer player to talk. At that, the only person other than Tiago Splitter who is also mandated to speak by the way the league rules work. Credit to Denny Avdia. That's what leadership looks like, is standing in and answering tough questions, even if you're not going to say anything of note. Okay, let's talk about the basketball game, because boy, did the Blazers roll when they got to the frickin' basketball game. They dominated the Warriors, 139-119. They won this game in 40 minutes. Let's talk about that in the second segment. Join me there, won't you? First, though, today's program, a bonus episode brought to you by the good folks over there at DoorDash. The NBA season is heating up, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long, whether you're watching for the highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player. DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the Bag Drop. Every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. We're talking player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, and stuff you actually want. So the next time someone goes off for 50, use that promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass. Plus, your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only, 50% off up to $10 the day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash in your bag all season long. All right, so let's talk this game. Here's your fastest recap in the West. The Blazers dominate this game 139-119. But boy, were they shooting bricks early. They start 0 for 6 from 3, but they rally, end of the first quarter, tied at 28 because the Blazers won the possession game. They had 5 offensive rebounds. They had one possession where they missed 4 3-pointers and grabbed offensive rebounds on all those, so it's a little bit inflated because they kept missing those shots, but they also got to the free throw line. They had 7 more shooting possessions, field goal attempts, and free throws than the Warriors in the first quarter. They won the possession game. The Warriors ended up committing 21 turnovers in 40 minutes before waving the white flag, and it started early by the Blazers just getting more chances. 28-28 after one, but the Blazers catch fire in the second quarter. They made 9 of 11 three-pointers in the second quarter. They start 0 for 6 in this game from 3, just shooting bricks. Clean looks too. 4 of those 6 shots, I don't have the NBA tracking data, but to my eyeballs from press row, open, good looks, open three-pointers, bricks. Start 0 of 6 from 3. They make 15 of their next 27, more than half. They just get hot, including 9 of 11 in the second quarter. They blow the game open late. Not blow it open, but they build a 13-point lead at halftime. 59-56. Denny Avdia, 20 points and 4 threes, 4 of 6 from 3 in the first half. He helped set the tone. I thought he was awesome early, particularly because Shaedon Sharpe really struggled to begin this game. He was 0 for 5, and Denny was a tone setter. 20 of their 69 in the first half. Blazers, they don't let up in the third quarter. Lead by as many as 18. Warriors close the gap a little bit. Go into the fourth quarter, 103-91. 12-point game heading into the fourth. So you kind of think like, okay, Warriors probably going to make their run. Steph Curry's been awesome. He had 24 in the first half. He's been good. Every other non-Steph Warrior has been horrendous, right? So Golden State's playing the second night of a back-to-back. They played an overtime game. Al Horford's sitting out because he's not going to play back-to-backs this year. Like, they're tired. And the directive from Tiago Splitter heading into this game was run them, and run them even more, and run them off makes, and play incredibly fast. And boy, did the Blazers play incredibly fast. Incredibly fast. They're just relentless with their pace. Their defense is good. Like I've told you before on this program, if you're a longtime listener, that I think they have all of the tools to be a top 10 defense, and that it is a very reasonable explanation that this is a top 10 defense this year. They're going to be good on that end, and I feel very comfortable with that. If they shoot like this, 15 of 27, if you include 15 of their next 27 after the 0 for 6 start, if you include the 0 for 6 start through 3 quarters, still 15 of 33 from deep. Like, they're just shooting so well. And then, so you head to the fourth quarter, 12-point game. This is kind of how these things happen in the NBA, right? If you get to the 7-minute mark and it's single digits, you got a ball game. If you get to the 7-minute mark and you're holding and you've built on that lead, you're going to win. The Blazers are up 19 with 8 minutes left. The Warriors take a timeout. Steve Kerr puts in the end of the bench, waves the white flag. Blazers cruise. They finally put their bench in with about 4 minutes left. Jan Hansen gets his first bucket of his NBA career. A dunk with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left off a little drop-off feed, and the Blazers can celebrate. And celebrate they do. When I walked into the locker room at the end of the game to go talk to Drew Holiday and Matisse Thybulle, whatever Blazers players were available at the time, there's a big pinwheel in the middle of the locker room, like on the ceiling. There's a huge Trailblazers pinwheel. It's kind of in the central feature of the locker room. And it's dripping. There's water dripping down from the pinwheel. There's 2 spots where it's covered in water. Because the Blazers celebrated. Tiago Splitter was late to his press conference because the Blazers celebrated. They doused their interim head coach in a whole bunch of cold water. And it was a scheme. They were leaving the court, and Drew Holiday couldn't remember who it was, but it was one of the vets, either Rob Williams or Damian Lillard, and said, "Oh yeah, we're throwing water on this dude. We got to celebrate Tiago's big win." And then as they got back to the locker room and Splitter wasn't there yet, they decided, let's not do it when he comes in from his office, because the way the layout of the locker room works is you would come around from sort of the side door through the video room. Easy getaway, as Drew Holiday noted. So they decided they'd let him talk, let him tell him how well they played, dominated a good team, got their first win of the season, the first win of this Tiago Splitter era, played to their identity. They played hard, they played fast, they played smart, all of those things. And then when Tiago Splitter brought him in, come to the huddle, one time, whatever they say, family together, whatever it might be, they doused their coach with water, poured water all over him, and the pinwheel was dripping because they celebrated. And I think that's important here. Not just the win and the fun stuff, right? But I think there was a bit of catharsis in not just winning but playing. I asked Matisse Thybulle and Drew Holiday about this both. Is it nice to just play basketball when there's a little bit of turmoil around the team? And Drew said, yeah, like we love to play, and it's not just this specific thing. It's whatever's going on in your life, any type of family stuff that never gets out in public, or any type of anything that just exists where it does. It's nice to play. It's a good place to be because that's the way the NBA works, and the Blazers play today. And they don't practice tomorrow, and there's no shoot-around on Sunday, and that was Tiago Splitter's message to him. Got him into the locker room at halftime. They're up 13, and he says, leave it all out there. Play as hard as you can. There's no practice Saturday. There's no shoot-around Sunday. Do everything you can to win this game. Play as hard as you can, and they do. This was such an identity-affirming win because Game 1 was such a clear introduction to their identity. They lose in the end, right? They don't play well in the final 2 minutes. They end up losing to the Wolves in the end. But you saw exactly who they were going to be, right? Exactly who they're going to be. They play hard. They play fast. The ball moves on offense. They want to drive and kick. And they want to get to the rim. They want to cut down the middle when guys drive baseline. You just know exactly what they want to do and who they want to be. It's so clear in Game 1. But they kind of fumble it away at the end. And then their coach gets arrested by the FBI. And, that's a pretty chaotic 12-hour run there. By the time they wake up after the first game of the season, their coach is in federal custody. That's a lot. But then they come back out here and, like, players play. And so they played. And they won. And they dominated. And this wasn't the identity introduction game. This was the identity affirmation game. This is exactly who they're going to be. And you know it. And when they played to this level and they made shots at the level they did, and they're probably not going to make shots always like this, but you know the defensive baseline is there. You know the energy is there. You know the ball movement they want to move the ball on offense. Like, it is a priority for them. Cut, move, cut, move, cut, move. It was all there. And it gave them this chance to have that bit of joy to celebrate when, you know, they probably just need to play to get away from the nonsense, and they probably don't feel it as maybe acutely as I had assumed they feel it, right? Because that's just the nature of an NBA brain, is you can't get too caught up in the mess. But they got to celebrate and have fun and have a moment and then get out of here and go play basketball again. Tiago Splitter talked about how he's not going to really change that much. When he got here and they kind of met preseason 2 months ago, they put the plan in, and he was a big part of installing the offense. One of the reasons he got hired is because of the speed and pace that his team in Paris basketball team in France, played with. So it's not like he has to reinvent anything. And they were only 48 minutes into the season. It wasn't like, oh, hey, we've developed some habits that I really want to change. Instead, he gets to say, we know what we want to do. Very little changes. You know, a little bit will change, right? Because he'll probably want to do things a little bit differently than Billups did. But the big picture structural stuff is still intact. They get to be exactly who they want to be. They know what they want to be. And, like, this team looks really fun. I'm going a little long in this bonus episode, but, like, I thought this was one of the best games Chris Murray's ever played. Like, he was really good in this one, right? Like, he just fits in with what they want to do defensively. I think Matisse Thybulle is such a perfect fit for the nonsense they want to play on defense. They want to go nuts. They want to be chaotic. They want to fly around, play pressure, passing lanes, get out and run. I think Tease, like, really lets them play this small ball special type of game. He had 3 steals in 15 minutes. Denny was really good. 20 of his 26 in the first half. Tumani was great in this game. 19 hit 3 threes, had 7 rebounds. He also had 3 steals. Drew Holiday settling in, 12 points, 11 assists. Shaedon Sharpe hasn't had a good offensive game yet. Didn't have a good offensive game tonight yet again. He had a bad offensive game in game 1. He did not have a good offensive game in game 2. You know, it was 5 of 15 for 14 points. 15 shots for 14 points. Like, and they scored $139. And they're rolling. And the group just, like, yeah, they don't have a backup center. And, yeah, like, Blake Wesley's not your ideal backup point guard, but he is your ideal chaos engine for a team that wants to play chaotic. On a night where going into the arena, we didn't know what this team was going to be like. You leave with a full affirmation of exactly that. Not only do you know what they're going to be, they know what they're going to be, and they know that if they play the way that they want to, they can give teams hell. That is going to do it for this bonus episode brought to you from the Moda Center as someone behind me runs a leaf blower. Honestly. We will do more shows next week, 5 of them. Blazers play Sunday night against the Clippers, Sunday evening at 6 p.m. against the Clippers. Have you covered after that game. They stay in L.A. and will play the Lakers on Monday. Have you covered after that game. 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.